the show here and hit my recording here. Hit my recording there. So as this starts our all come on, thank you for welcome on Bridges Live. I'm Dr. Paul Dyer, and we like to have a conversation on Bridges Live. It's about information, understanding, and action. I have Mr. Tom Dillard and Mr. Dr. George Fraser on. Tom, please introduce yourself to the community and where you are and what you do. I know,
Okay, my name
I
is.
know that, and your knees hurt, so I know that.
Okay, leave that out. Tom Dillard. I live in Columbus, Ohio. Trained, I guess, back in the day as a social worker, community activist. Used to run programs in Columbus in the '60s and '70s that really focused around maximum feasible citizen participation. So that was the model cities, and for the war on poverty programs. Was a member of CORE back in the days, so used to all that talk and rhetoric and action and the like, and value that very much, and try to how do I say, share ideas and thoughts, but probably even more important to listen to what folks are saying to try to help them and help myself understand where we are and where we're going.
And then Dr. George Fraser, as extensive as it is, but please give a synopsis of who you are.
Um, Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, I'm a servant leader, founder of Fraser Net Incorporated, as well as founder of the Power Networking Conference now in its 20th year, as well as founder of WINS Wealth Building Centers and Curriculum, which is a financial literacy system that we embed and install in historically Black churches and social and civic organizations to teach our people financial education. And then founder of Fraser Nation, Citizens of Generational Wealth, which is a virtual nation with its own flag, its own Declaration of Interdependence, its own constitution. It's global, and we have about 1.2 million citizens in Fraser Nation.
So the conversation I want to talk about, and this gets, and the reason why it started this little hoopla, and there was a significant post about crabs in the barrel about Black people. And the crabs in the barrel has taken on a connotation of we don't help each other. Or I want your thoughts on those comments, or should we just not be using that terminology at all? Should it be eradicated, or should we just move past that and move on to something more proactive than a negative? And Tom, you can start, please.
Oh, okay. Um, that's an old notion. And
Right.
growing up, we used to hear that all the time that we couldn't move ahead because of Black folks. One crab in the barrel would pull the other one back, and the like, and the like. It's a book called Brainwash. I forget the guy's name.
Tom Burrell.
There you go. Talks about that, huh? And the stories and the like that have been put out there concerning that particular concerning Black folks' behavior and what it meant and how they used it to kind of keep us off track. As I look at our history, though, I see being part of an old social worker in terms of group work and organizational development. You look and you see where Black folks have come together on numerous occasions to get things done. You know, now, are the disagreement amongst groups? Absolutely. If you want to see disagreement, what crabs in the barrel, look at Congress. That's a good place. And boys pull each other down. And so it happens. I mean, the factions disagree and don't support one another. That happens in all groups and organizations. But the fact that it's somehow applied to us in a unique way, you know what I mean, as if it's a fault or a blemish of some sign on ourselves and people, is a bunch of BS. All
So I
groups do it, and that whole crabs in a barrel is a way of, in my way of thinking about it, is a way of, oh, it has a couple slices to it. One is I can use it as an excuse for not participating in stuff because there's too many crabs in the barrel, right? And I don't want to be pulled back. So I isolate myself from folks. And probably even more dangerous is I share with other folks the hopelessness that the message communicates. The don't. What's the phrase? What was the oh, and to support that academically with depth of research, I refer to the golden brook, the golden. Oh, come on, guys! The golden brick road,
Rule,
in which the crows
the yellow
tell
brick road. Yeah, the
yellow
yellow
brick.
brick.
Thank you. I need to have you around more. That's right. You the yellow brick road, because when the crows talk to the scarecrow, right?
Right.
Said you ain't nothing, you can't be nothing, huh? Get back on the pole, huh? Because you ain't going nowhere, no way. And so there's that thought amongst our folks when we are afraid, huh? And hopeless. We go to that whole kind of crabs in the barrel. I can't do nothing. I better get my behind back on that scarecrow pole where I belong. And so it communicates that kind of thing. And so, I think that's my way of thinking about it. But again, I could be wrong.
Dr. Fraser?
I pretty much agree with Tom. I think he said it all. It is not something that I ascribe to. It's not something that I generally say or think, because it has negative connotation. So I don't want to even put that out in the universe. Yes, are there crabs in a barrel? Yes, and as Tom said, I can't think of any group that doesn't have it. Maybe culturally, from a linguistic standpoint, we've been tarred and feathered with that. But and it does have credence, and we recognize it, and we know, those of us who are wise and who are studied know when to ignore it, and don't put it out in the universe, and don't give it any oxygen. Starve it to death. Right?
I would have to apologize because I had used it recently, and I was trying to invoke more positivity, than saying, I hope that's not me bringing my fellow down.
Sure.
You're right,
I can relate to that. We've all said that to ourselves in the quiet of our own minds.
Right. And you're right, Tom. There are many situations that we have helped each other and come together. And then we're just not the only slice that has done this, but it seems like it only happens to the Black community, and using this negative connotation. Not that no one else can do it, but only the Black community uses it. So moving forward, we still have to activate the youth or the non-participants. And then there are those people who speak against the movement of forward, and they're not understanding why there are not. Tom?
Well, let me answer it this way and kind of float an idea by both you wise gentlemen. It's my belief as of recent that our DNA, now that we're understanding what that is and what that means, our DNA is passed on from generation to generation. We know the physical DNA is, right? My bald head comes from my mother, and her genes. But I'm also working on the idea that our culture is also passed on through the DNA, and that culture has three basic components: family, faith, and freedom. And no matter where you, as a general rule, not everybody, as a general rule of dealing with Black folks, you find those themes always playing through. Family is always a theme for us, no matter how bad it is, right? And folks have done that. Faith, even from African ancestries, in terms of talking to ancestors, etc., and that whole kind of thing around faith, and it manifests itself in the church, you know what I mean, and in fraternal and sorority organizations. That whole thing of faith and believing in a set of principles and as a way of going. And then the last one is freedom. And in all of our experience, no matter how good or how bad it is, freedom seems to be a theme that always plays. And let me point out what I mean by freedom. I don't mean by freedom you can do whatever you want to, when you want to, however you want to, to whomever you want to. That ain't freedom. My way. That's not my definition. My definition is freedom to be who you want to be the best you can be, to follow your dream, to fulfill your purpose. And anything that blocks you from that limits your freedom. So it's not just being free from chains, right? Because there's chains in the head. It's being free, to express yourself to the fullest extent to which you are, to which you are purposed and driving. So that's my way of kind of thinking about it. And so, and let me just add parenthetically, don't ask old men questions because they talk too damn much. So you ask a nickel question, they give you a 50-cent answer. So here's the rest of the change. So what I'm saying is that at times we mutate off of our DNA to somebody else's DNA and get ourselves lost.
Dr. Fraser?
Restate the question. That was I like Tom's answer, but I totally forgot the question.
I did too, Dr. Fraser. I did too. As two of us.
Okay.
But what that's got to do with
Dr. Paul, restate the question.
Well, the question is in short, is how are we to move forward when we have to activate people who don't think they are helping or they're not helping? Because we do have certain people who are processing and progressing. They are. And then there's the others, and this is why the term crabs in the barrel keeps popping up, and I won't use, but they're just they're pulling themselves back and pulling us as a people. We're held still, and when the media looks at us, they only look at the people who are standing still or being held back, not the progressives that are moving forward.
Yeah, that's an astute observation, and that is true. But I personally, as a personal philosophy, I do not focus on that. I focus on the ones that are moving forward, right? And I'm constantly engaged as an elder in moving those who are moving them forward faster, right? Giving them a push, giving them a nudge. That's what I'm focused on. I'm accentuating whatever I can to move forward, whatever is positive in our culture and community. I mean, the media focuses on the negative. You're right, Dr. Paul. We should be focusing on the positive. We know that there is negative. We know that there's murder in Chicago. We know that, right? And there are those who are down on the ground focused on trying to resolve some of the most entrenched, some of the most egregious problems, historical problems in our culture. Let's call it black on black crime.
Yes.
It
Yes.
exists.
Yes.
And there is an army of really good souls that are
Yes.
working on that. I'm not working on that. I'm working on finding those that have the highest potential to excel, then to reach down and to lift up, and to reach back and pull forward. And I'm giving them everything I have to accelerate that. Right. So at maybe some point in time, the accelerated progress of our people, right, will flood out, overflow onto the negative imagery of our people. And this is what Tom Burrell writes about in his book. Wonderful. And I know Tom, he's been around a long, long time, he's still with us. And so, yes, there is plenty of negative to focus on, right? At least according to how the media sees us.
Right, the narrative.
Right, we do not need to pile on and contribute to that. Wherever we can contribute to and accentuate the positive, uplift the positive, expand the positive, talk about the positive, and talk about what we can be doing as a positive people. That's the conversation I'm engaged in. I know that there's plenty of other conversations going on in those other buckets and in those other barrels, right? I don't contribute to those conversations. There are enough Negroes that contribute to those conversations. I have made a personal commitment to Dr. George Fraser that I will no longer debate Negroes that Harriet Tubman would have shot. So I'm just not. I'm not engaged in those conversations. But I know they go on, and I know they need to go on.
Yeah, I know. That's good.
So, and I love that one. I am not going to talk to you to a person that Harriet Tubman just would have shot, because there were people she did have to shoot because they were going to tell.
Oh, sure.
That's right.
They were going to tell to don't take these people.
That's right. They were negative. They were toxic. They came on the Underground Railroad under false pretenses, and it was really just to get information and intelligence and go back and tell the white man.
Right.
She understood who they were, and that's why Harriet Tubman had to carry a gun. Right. So she said, either you're going to do this or I'm going to kill you, but you ain't going back because I know who you are.
Yeah.
And there are those black people around us.
No doubt.
And
no question about it.
And I tell you, I do bounce in that barrel to try to awaken them into the new light instead of staying stuck in captivity. I do work on that, and then it is tiresome. But I feel like if the kids that don't know the difference, specifically youth, and I don't know what that age is, because you still find 40s and 30s still thinking like they're a child. So it's not an age issue.
Oh, yeah.
It's a comprehension issue. It's
That's
a
right.
cognitive issue. And they're not understanding the gravity of their habitual condition.
That's right.
Go ahead, Tom.
I agree to an extent. My perspective is a bit different. Being a social worker, you know where I probably ended up doing, right? It's working with the little guys in court and the guys in the street and that kind of stuff. And having kind of, it's not a badge or anything, but having come from a similar kind of environment, and by the grace of God was able to leave that environment, in part. I've spent time talking to what we call knuckleheads about that whole kind of piece, and I'm sure both of you have too. From time to time, when confronted, you're going to say something. You see it, and you're going to say something. Because I don't think either one of y'all are real good at keeping your mouth closed. So you're going to speak up, which is good, because especially for elders, they look for direction, even though they talk a lot of smack. You know what I mean? They really are at the end of all those sentences and all that cussing. They're really looking for direction. And that's not all of them. Believe me, it's not all of them, but it's some of them. So anyway, what we find is the approach I use is I don't try to make statements. I try to ask questions.
Yes.
Just ask questions. Say, what you working on, man? Why are you working on that? What you trying to do? How's it going for you? You making any progress? It's a question. In the old days, in my profession, it's called motivational interviewing. Is a technique where you just ask questions, and if you think about it long enough, you can hear your grandmother doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Boy, what you doing?
Yeah.
Right? Now she may tell you, I saw how many times I got to tell you to take out the garbage, man. I mean, how many times, right? You'll get statements, but a lot of it is questions as she probes how you're thinking and what you're thinking. And then mine would come back around the corner based on what I told her, She'd come back to that at a different place at a different time, right? To make a suggestion about who I need to see, what I saw, what I need to read, where I need to go, and more importantly, who I need to stay the hell away from.
And that's what Dr. Fraser was talking about.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
There's these poisonous that we just need to stay away from.
Yeah.
But in that poison, we have so many people passing through that poison.
That's right. Mm-hmm. That's right. You're right.
But I think you answered that, Dr. Fraser, if I'm correctly. But the people who reach up, I will grab.
That's right.
Right.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. Oh, and sometimes they reach up with a filthy language, is my point.
Mm-hmm.
And I ain't scared of that, or them huffing and breathing and all that kind of stuff. You know, that becomes a kind of a show they put out front. But the question kind of I have found in my limited experience is kind of disarms people. It kind of brings it down a little more, because they get ticked off at you and say, why in the hell you ask me all these questions? Hey man, I don't mean nothing, but I just want to know. You don't have to tell me. I'm just asking because I like to know. Well, it ain't none of your damn business. Well, you're absolutely right. It ain't none of my business. So if you don't want to tell me nothing, you ain't got to tell me nothing. And then watch them tell you something. So anyway, and it doesn't work for everybody, but it's just one man's opinion, in terms of how I do it. That's all.
No, I think that's very, very effective.
Yeah.
And I've spent my life writing about the power and importance of the relationships in our lives. I've written 6 best-selling books.
Good.
On networking.
Good.
And I say to people all the time, introduce me to your 5 closest friends, and that will tell me who you are. As they know and as they go, so go you. Right?
That's right.
Don't spend major time with minor people. People going nowhere want you to go nowhere with them. People doing nothing want you to do nothing with them. If you want to change your life, change your relationships. It's no more complicated than that. Because you're not going to get out of life without cultivating, nurturing, and building relationships at work, at home, and in the community. This is biblical. I didn't make this up.
Right. Yes, I agree.
How you're going to, wherever you're going to get there with and through other people. That's what you're going to do. I say all the time when I speak.
Good point. You got to give me your books you wrote. You got to give me. No, I'm serious.
Well, there's 2. One is, I wrote this 30 years ago called Success Runs in Our Race.
Yes.
Oh, goodness. I've seen that.
I've read
it. The complete guide to effective networking in the African-American community. I wrote this 30 years ago. It is required reading in 57 historically Black colleges. It is the book that started the networking conversation in Black America and ultimately started the networking.
Good. Excellent.
Read it.
Thank you. I will. 10
years ago, I followed up with a book which is called Click.
Yeah.
Click. 10 Truths for Building Extraordinary Relationships. So this is networking 2.0. And the premise of this book, or the equation in this book, essentially says that you don't click with everybody that you network with.
Right.
You
Good point.
click with selected people when three things are in perfect alignment:
What's that?
chemistry,
Uh-huh.
fit,
Uh-huh.
and timing.
Gotcha.
We could have good fit, good chemistry, bad timing. We won't click. We could have good timing, good fit, bad chemistry. We won't click. All three of those things have to be in perfect alignment, and that's when you click. That's when things click. That's when relationships click. That's when you will ultimately pick your significant other. That's when you will ultimately pick the right business partners. These are critical relationships that intersect in your life through all 8 passages of your life. So
Wow.
the equation is very simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, the equation is very simple. All right. And it's right here in the book.
Yep.
It's right here at the beginning of the book. I got a mathematician and worked with the mathematician. I think I put it here, right here somewhere. I don't have the exact page. But anyway, the equation's in the book. And here's the equation. Write this down. This is deep.
I'm writing down what you said. So that's right. I'm on it.
All right.
Shoot. Yeah. Go.
C square,
Mm-hmm.
C with a small 2,
Yep. No
right?
square.
C
Yep.
square, C equals, C means, C is for chemistry.
Chemistry
C
squared.
square. Whenever you square something in an equation,
Yeah.
you increase the
Right.
power of
That's right.
the factor in the equation.
That's right. Double it.
Times. The reason
Uh-huh.
we use times instead of minus or plus, it means that all 3 of the factors must be present to complete the equation, right?
Excellent.
So C squared times F. F is fit,
Mm-hmm.
times the square root of T. T is timing.
Right.
Whenever you square root a factor in an equation, it reduces the power of that factor. So
Gotcha.
C squared times F times T, the square root of T, equals W to the 3rd power. W to the 3rd power. What does W to the 3rd power means? That means that you win, I win,
And they win.
and the people that we both serve win.
Dr.
Interesting.
Fraser, you're all
And
you're all
Excellent.
that's a
you're all
win.
yeah,
That's
Dr.
a win-win-win. Yeah.
you're all over my education, and I know
Outstanding.
because I've read his books, and I've been reading his books and other books alike. And today, just
Mhm.
today, I was talking to a person about relationships and prime factors. Because if you're dealing with a person that is only a prime factor, they can only divisible by themselves. But
That's right.
but you cannot put an exponent on that. And so when you build a relationship, you got to build a new equation. And I gave him, it's so funny. So Dr. Frazier, I was just smiling. I was actually beaming with joy and pride going, he's
Wow.
all in my head. He's tap dancing in my head. But
That's right.
it is the fact, but it is true. And Tom and Dr. Frazier, thank you for being on my show. But the other thing is what I feel is that people's surrounding environmental conditions collapses them where they don't have an understanding of how to build that equation. It's the environment that creates it. Now, if you are bold enough, brave enough, you can move through that environment and still succeed. And that's what
That's
you
right.
talk about, Dr. Fraser.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly right. That's a
Mhm.
very, very deep observation,
Right.
Dr. Paul. That's exactly right. But the beauty of it is that is how God has designed the system. Let me say that a different way.
Yeah.
My favorite quote outside of the Bible is a quote by Marcus Aurelius. one of the five great Caesars, and one of the
Mhm.
founders of the Stoic philosophy. I am a Stoic.
Me
I
too.
am too.
I
Right.
I'm
There you go.
stoic.
There you go. They're Stoic. So Marcus Aurelius, this is deep. Marcus Aurelius said in 160 AD that the impediment to action advances the action.
That's right.
What stands in your way becomes the way.
wait.
That's right.
That's deep. Or another way to say that is the obstacle
That's right.
is the way.
That's right.
Where there is no obstacle,
There is
there is no way. Right? So, what is the first thing God does when He gives you an assignment that He feels that He has properly prepared you for?
Yeah. Put something in the way.
He then puts an obstacle in your way.
Yep.
And your job is to find a way over, around, through, and under the obstacle.
You're right.
And learn the lessons from that obstacle. And when you do, you get an attaboy and an attagirl. And then God gives you your next assignment at a slightly higher level. And then the very next thing He does is He puts an obstacle in your way.
Yep.
So that you will extract and learn the lessons. The great James Baldwin said it beautifully. James Baldwin said,
Yeah.
we are born, we suffer, and then we die. And what did he mean by that? He meant it's the way in which we handle our suffering. We overcome our obstacles, right? That will determine the meaning of the dash between the year we were born and the year we die, right? Life is obstacles.
Yeah.
That's how we learn. God has designed the system. If it was easy, why would God need you? Right? Right? So it
That's
is
right.
through our failures, our stumbles, overcoming obstacles, right? Overcoming our fears. A sister on a
Yeah.
call asked
Yeah.
me last night,
That's
said,
great.
Dr.
That's
Fraser,
great. It's
said,
great.
Dr. Fraser, how can I overcome this fear I have of so-and-so?
Yeah.
So I did a pregnant pause on a Dr. Paul,
Yeah.
and I said, it was about 75 people on a Zoom call. I said, I'm going to answer your question by asking you a question that you already know the answer to.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is this: how do you overcome the fear of flying? There's only one way to do it.
There's only one way.
You have to fly, right? You got to get on a damn plane.
Yeah, you cannot conceptualize.
Prepare yourself. You got to engage it. You got to
Yes.
attack it. You
Yeah.
got to do it.
Yeah.
And that's where and that's where that phrase has been used so much as a bad connotation, because people are afraid to do.
Right.
And they're afraid to do, and just maybe, and Tom, you kind of said this about DNA of our historical thing. They're afraid to do because they're afraid to break the master's code.
Mm-hmm.
They're afraid of being whipped by the invisible whip that has been plaguing them their whole generational life.
That's right.
Yeah. I understand.
That's right. There's another reason they're afraid, or there's another, I think, underlying and foundational reason for fear. It is the lack of preparation.
Okay.
The unwillingness, Doc, to do the damn work.
That's right. I agree.
Right? People
agree.
always ask me, Dr. Fraser, are you afraid? Do you have any fear when you get up there and you speak in front of 1,000 people? And I say, hell to the no. I am well prepared.
Yeah.
In this thing that I'm going to talk about, at this moment, I know more about it than 1,000 people who are getting ready to hear me.
There you go.
So I have no fear. I have anxiety.
There's a difference.
They said, well, explain anxiety, Dr. Fraser. I said, the best metaphor or example I can give you of anxiety is the Kentucky Derby and the 14 finest horses on the planet meeting to run the Kentucky Derby. If you've ever been down by the gate where the horses are housed before they open the gate, you notice that the horses are fidgety, that they're jumping all around. They ain't nervous.
No.
Right? They're ready to get the hell out of there. They want to go. Right? So I may have some anxiety because I want to get stuck, but I have no fear. I have no fear because I have been properly preparing for this. I've done the work.
Absolutely.
I want to add a little anecdote. I was down there in Kentucky, and I was able to see the Derby race and get in, and it was a big brouhaha for me because it was my first time and only time. But then, as those horses were coming out for the practice to warm up, I swear if I didn't tell you that the horses were looking at each other.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And they would just, and their little noses would turn, and they'd be like, and then, but when they were in that gate, the eyes went down, those ears went back, and it was not about this. They were ready to go. And I thought that was amazing because when they were on that trot, they were looking around and looking at each other but when they were in that gate and right before everything's all like excitement and they're doing this little movement, that nose goes down like this.
Right.
And I tell you, it sets chills up my spine.
They explode. One of the greatest sports moments. I'm so glad you said that, Dr. Paul. One of the greatest sports moments, Tom, that I've ever experienced in my life. One of the most exhilarating. I was very fortunate to be at a Triple Crown racetrack in Baltimore for the Memorial. Right, one of the three-legged Triple Crown. And a good friend of mine got us both down on the field, on the rail, on the turn rail. Okay. Now I'd never done this before. I had no idea what this experience would be like. But he said, just stand here when you'll hear them take off and just wait and watch. So I heard it. And I was right at the turn, and I saw those horses, these beautiful, magnificent beasts, right? When they're running, all four of those legs are off the ground. They came past me with cold air coming out of their nostrils and those beautiful muscles and that sound, that roar as they roared past me. I had never felt anything, saw anything, experienced the horsepower. I experienced horsepower for the first time in my life.
Wow.
It was unbelievable. If you ever get a chance to go to a racetrack and go down on the rail, and if you can go on the rail that turns to the finish, you will have an experience like you have never had in your life. You can feel them.
Excellent.
Sound.
Excellent.
The exhaling of their breaths, their nostrils flaring, those jockeys on the back of them, and they're small. I mean, these big beasts, right? And unbelievable. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but Paul,
I'm glad you.
I had to second his emotion.
I'm glad you shared that, gentlemen. I have the book, "The Obstacle's the Way."
There you go.
Have fantastic the book. And the Stoic by the day, you know what I mean? Daily reader. So I've gotten into the whole kind of Stoic and the guys in a website called Medium that shares in it a lot of writings around that whole kind of Stoic thinking, which I find delightful.
Me too. Absolutely.
Yeah, gentlemen, you know what? In my life, I don't know about rest you guys, but in my life, there are no accidents.
I agree.
Everything is purposeful, has a meaning to it. This is an event, that has a meaning to it. And it's interesting, Ain't no way in God's green earth, right? That a dude from Columbus, Ohio, right? Can be talking to two guys as bright as the both of you are. You know what I mean? That just doesn't happen. Those guys do not hang out at the Jamaica Breeze. I'm sorry. although there's many philosophers at the Jamaica Breeze.
Tom, I live in Cleveland. So I'm just up the road a bit. You know,
you're in Cleveland now?
I'm in Cleveland. I'm in Cleveland.
Okay, you're right up the road then.
Years, yeah.
Well, I went to Case Western Reserve.
A great school. Woo!
At SAS, the School of Applied Social Sciences, was
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
back in the day when Huff burned down, and I
Oh, wow.
watched it. I watched it from my hotel room, and then with the next couple of days, amazing, Dr. Dyer, I saw Martin Luther King, who was the mayor that was running, first black mayor, walking down
Stokes, Carl
105th.
Stokes, Carl
Yeah,
Stokes.
Carl Stokes, walking down 105th and Euclid, huh? With a big crowd behind him. You know what I mean? So it's, yeah, from Cleveland. Yeah, I had some good experiences. So, but that doesn't take away the point that I'm talking to some bright guys, and I appreciate the conversation very much. And I got books to read.
I appreciate the conversation, and I want to let you guys go, but I do want to make one point. We're in a shift. This
Yes.
this new era,
Yep.
it's not the great white hope. We still
Yep.
got work to do.
Yeah.
And if we think we have made a way, we haven't made anything until you make it your own way.
Mhm.
And so I want
Yes.
you guys to think on this new shift and tell me where it can go and where it needs to go.
Let me suggest, I prophesize on this one, and everybody laughs at me, but at my age I can prophesize on any damn thing I want to in terms of what the future is. The black woman will change and save this country.
Mhm.
She already has. She's gotten, how do I say? She has always been strong. She's always been the kind of moral leader that we have.
Mhm.
But she's starting to rise now. And what I tell my buddies, my buddies here in Columbus, I call the people I see now, the black mayor, the black county commissioner, those, people, I call them the fruit of the revolution.
Okay.
They're the fruit. Those ones that we used to fund and send down to HB, black universities, they're coming back now. We
Yeah.
planted those seeds and they're coming. They're lawyers, huh? You know what I mean? They're
Right.
vice presidents, they're coming. We planted those seeds, not only just my generation, but the generation before, right? And before King and them, I'm talking about the guys and the gals that really suffered back, huh?
Yeah.
In the day. And all those seeds are starting to bloom now. And we are, and we're seeing and I just take such joy in it. Because I'll say this, then I'll hush. I see in their faces my aunts and uncles, cousins,
Mhm.
brothers, sisters,
Yeah.
neighbors. I look at them and I say, I know you. I know you.
This picture behind me that's in my drop, it's one of the things of the 100 Black Men of Maryland is what they see there will be.
Good.
And that's what that is, because they need to see us.
That's
they
right.
need to hear us.
That's right.
They need to not just fantasize, but know that we're there. And this is why I like to have these shows. Dr. Fraser, this next shift, this shift we're on, where to and how to?
I think we are evolving slowly but surely into a sort of a new mindset. And I think a new mindset will equal a new consciousness. And I think there are 4 or 5 things that will become the cornerstones for a new 21st century consciousness of Black people. And I've written about this extensively. I think one is that Black people need a narrower cultural vision.
Yes.
That we need to focus on excellence and making Black people great first. Making Black people great first, right? A narrower cultural vision. I think another part of that consciousness is that we must develop and socially isolate and ostracize, to be honest.
Yes.
Sound mean. We must socially isolate and ostracize those Black people that do not give back to their own. Okay. We have no such vessel, cultural vessel, uh, amongst us. If you are a Jew of means and you do not give back to Jewish causes, you are socially isolated and ostracized. They don't even want you to come to the synagogue, right? We have no such system in our culture.
Correct.
You could be a Dr. Dre, get $1 billion from Apple for your invention, give $40 million to USC, a college you didn't even go to, and not give one penny to an historically Black college.
You don't have to.
But if you showed up at a Black church, not only would you sit in one of the pews, they would invite you up on the stage with the pastor. All right. So we need to develop, as part of our 21st, second, and third century consciousness, a system of social isolation and ostracization. I think that's the second thing. The third thing, I think we need to coalesce around our vision, Tom, not just our pain.
Correct.
Okay, somebody put a bullet in a young brother's head and blow his brains out. We are saber rattling. We are rioting. We come out by the thousands. Some of us talk about economic development, wealth creation, financial education, and financial literacy, closing the income and wealth gap. We can hardly get 50 people to meet to talk about that on Zoom.
I know it's
right.
correct.
Right? There's just something functionally and fundamentally wrong with that. I think the final two pieces of a new consciousness, one which I've been talking about for years, and that is we have to connect the dots. We have to leverage more effectively our collective resources and intellectual capital. We are the wealthiest Black people on earth. We're a $1.5 trillion annual economy. If we were a nation, we would be the 16th richest nation in the entire world. I'm talking about Black people in America. 60% of the Black workforce in this country are in executive, managerial, supervisory, professional, specialty, vocational, technical, and administrative positions, right? There are no Black people in the entire world doing better than we are. Right. We are the beacon of hope for every single person of African descent in the entire world. We have everything we need to succeed except each other. Jews have each other. East Indians have each other. Asians have each other. Arabs have each other. We don't have each other. We have got to fix that. So until Black people put Black people first, Black people will always be last. That has to be a part of a 21st, 22nd, and 23rd century consciousness. And finally, we have to think entrepreneurially. Right? We have to think entrepreneurially. And what does that mean? It means taking risk, taking responsibility, taking ownership for our own lives. We came over here on the Mayflower, and we own the fewest number of businesses per capita of any cultural group in this country. So we're not going to get there, right, by 95% of us being employed. Nothing wrong with Black people being employed. We need some Black people employed in certain disciplines, absolutely. But we have to have more of us that are creating work and jobs for our people, because that's the only way to raise up the poor. So the 21st century for us must be about becoming the #1 employer of our own people. That is where I see us headed and going. That's the work that I'm doing. I know Tom is doing that same work in his own way. And so are you, Paul. You're really contributing to those ideas in your own way, because those are the ideas that will lift us up and save us.
Thank you.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you. God bless everyone. I hope everyone have any questions, they can comment and contact me. But ultimately, build the community, build the Black community, and this thrive. You guys have a great.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Thank you so much, George. Dr.
Thank you,
Fraser,
Tom.
Dr. Paul.
Appreciate
Thank
you.